I mean, just to talk about, when we talk about Meta, we're talking about what used to be Facebook, which Mark Zuckerberg is the leader of. I agree with you that from a vision perspective, what they've set out is very exciting. I really enjoyed both of the Meta keynote addresses on YouTube over the last couple of years. Let's just talk about where the technology is now and perhaps who the main players are in the metaverse, because my impression is exactly the same as yours. We know now that we can strap on an Oculus, a Quest my daughter's got a Quest, which she does gaming on, which she does virtual boxing on, and I think it's pretty good. But it doesn't appear to me to be anywhere really close to what you would consider that visceral, immersed experience involving presence. In terms of the other thing, just to finish off on that, is these Oculuses are quite big, clunky things at the moment. I'm not sure I'd wander around with these on, or meet a client or something with them on. The direction of travel seems to me to be that in a defined period of time, we can experience this immersive internet through maybe a pair of glasses like what I'm wearing today. And that would be a lot more convenient, a lot more user-friendly. Where are we now in terms of the technology? If someone was to say today, right, I'm setting up a business in the metaverse and I'm going to close my physical office and I'm going to operate entirely in the metaverse, is that a realistic vision?
It is a realistic vision. I don't think I would do it, but I think it is possible. I think that to really go down that route, I think that the hardware as well as the software is not there yet. We'll get there. I'm confident. We'll the Oculus Quest or the Meta Quest, I have to say. What you say is correct. They're bulky, they're heavy, and you have other ones. I think the HTC 5 XR, I think, is without battery. I think 200 grams or so. So that's or 250 grams. So that is moving in the right direction. But it's still a clunky device that you're not going to wear if you want to go out on the street, because you will walk into a pole or some other people, so you're not going to wear that. And then wearing a device like that on your head all the time is tiring for your eyes, for your brain, for your body, because it's heavy and it's not, the latency and everything and the visuals are good, but not seamless enough not to get nauseous or not to get eye strain or whatsoever. So I think we'll definitely get there. This is just, I think we are somewhere in the BlackBerry era, and Apple has not yet released their iPhone. And just like the first iPhone, you couldn't do much with it. Just like the first Apple XR or VR device will be really cool, but it will not be the one that we'll have 10 years from now. I think that 10 years from now, Apple will probably stop making their iPhones because we have an AR glass and I can just spin up 5 screens in front of me, a keyboard, and I can swipe, and I'm just in a cafe, and together with 50 other people, and we're all swiping in mid-air and doing weird things in front of our eyes. And I think if you would fast forward and you would walk to a cafe 10 years from now with today's mindset, you would be like, what the hell happened to the world? But then again, it happened also 15 years ago, or 20 years ago, when the mobile phones came out. People said, I'm never going to use a mobile phone on the train. That's antisocial. You're not going to do that, and people can reach me over a pager or whatsoever. And now look how the world looks like. Everyone is addicted to their phones, doom scrolling on TikTok. So
yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? I think we all have to accept now that when you say, "Oh, that'll never happen," we have to be realistic of just how fast the technology is moving. But let's just bring this into the legal sector, if we may, Mark. A lot of our audience are legal leaders, lawyers, folks in the legal tech space. One thing which is always described to me is that the legal profession is a people business. And I would go further and say it's a presence business, because if we think of everything from hearings in courtrooms, judges, barristers, clients, juries, through to mediations, through to client meetings in offices, networking events, training, awards evenings, working together as a team, being supervised. All of these things seem to require some element of presence. So let's pick one of those, shall we? Which let's just pick working in the office and meeting clients in the office. How could that look in the metaverse?
Well, I think that's one of the easiest things that we can move to the metaverse. You can, well, as I said, you can use Zoom, which can be argued as metaverse version 0.1. We can use Meet in one of the VR platforms, which you could argue is metaverse version 0.2. You have avatars without legs, and it's not very, very, very seamless. But now, fast forward 5-7 years. And you'll be able to be in your meeting room with 2 or 3 of your colleagues, meeting your client who are on the other side of the world, and your clients are wearing, and everyone is wearing an augmented reality headset, and the clients who are virtually attending the event are holographically projected in your boardroom, and you are holographically projected or virtually projected in their virtual environment, and both are hyper realistic. And all the non-verbal communication is copied and mimicked and captured using mocap. Really the lines begin to blur. Then, are you meeting virtually, or are you meeting physically? And so I think from a client perspective, meeting in the metaverse, not today, but 5-7 years from now, I think is something that can easily move to the metaverse, and actually will make life a lot easier, because instead of having having to fly around to meet your clients, or to have a less optimal 2D Zoom call or Teams call, you can have the best of both worlds. Not have to need to have to travel, but still have this feeling of physical presence, and being able to see all the non-verbal communication, which is so important in our communication, as long as the technology is good enough. And I'm convinced that we'll get there, and the technology will get there, and it's just a matter of time.
Yes, and you just mentioned this optimal situation of presence, which I completely agree with. What a lot of people say when they compare the old days where we all met physically to a Zoom situation is people will say, oh, you can't beat a face-to-face meeting. You make so much more progress when you sit round a table and thrash these issues out. And people who are involved in taking products to market, taking services to market, they will say as well, it's so much easier to do that when you're in front of someone, when you can see the whites of their eyes. And it seems to me that optimal experience is what underpins the advantages of the metaverse compared to something like a Zoom.
Well, absolutely. We will get to that stage where you can see all the non-verbal communication in a way that looks like as if you are physically present. We see the first examples already. Google has, I forgot what the name is, but this device which is like a bit like a phone booth, where you can. Where it feels like you are in the same room without using glasses. I think that's not optimal, because you can only have 2 one-on-one conversations. But 5-7 years, 10 years from now, we'll have glasses where we're able to project, and it looks like as if the people are in that room, and it looks really real. And I think. In my book, I give a fictional intro of how the world will look like in 2032, and this is also one of the ideas that come in there, that you could have that physical to digital conversation and it feels like being in the physical world, because we should not forget that our brains, they cannot make the difference between physical and digital. If the quality is good enough and the latency is low enough, and it's high definition enough, our brains cannot make the difference. So if we have this hybrid, or metaverse style meeting, then once we finish the meeting, our brains will think that meeting happened with everyone physically being there, and that's how we'll remember it. And that's where we're heading.